My talk is called Things to Stop Doing in 2015. Kind of don't let it throw you off, don't let it, kind of sounds a little negative. My girlfriend kind of made fun of me saying it's such a negative spin on things. But really what I want to just try and do is really kind of focus on little things that will help us progress forward. And I'll get into that a bit more. So this is Jam 3. I don't need to tell you a little bit more after Cameron's wonderful introduction. But again, yeah, we are a specialized company. And so a lot of the work that we do is this, I guess, fearless kind of work. I think a lot of the things that we're known for doing is stuff that kind of can't be done. And we often push boundaries in digital. But one of the things that I want to focus on is, normally I kind of come up here and I tell you to kind of like do all these crazy things. But what I want to also talk about is things that kind of impede us from doing the crazy things. So things that we've noticed. We're a project-based company, so we do a lot of projects. We're in a constant state of pitch. We're pitching on at least 2-3 projects a week. And a lot of them are often very technical, very creative, really future and forward thinking. But they're always handcuffed by certain parameters. So I want to kind of give this kind of like, BuzzFeed kind of style thing. It's several ideas. It's not one big idea that's going to change your life. It's really just focusing on like the little small things that might kind of help us move forward. And I think I've already heard Sam and Cameron kind of talk about these things. It's really about future platforms and kind of not stopping doing some of the things that are kind of holding creativity back. So some of the things might be crazy. You might kind of look at me like, really? But I just want to kind of move forward with these. So, it really is about stop sweating the small stuff. And I think this is one of the largest things that kind of holds us back from things. Because I see a ton of creative ideas that come through our office. And a lot of times they're just handcuffed by certain parameters. And so really this talk is really about just focusing on what works best and stop sweating the small stuff. So first up. Facebook is dead. Long live the microsite. So I know, crazy, right? 3 years ago, everybody being like, microsite's dead. Long live Facebook. But for me, Facebook, it's great for conversations and brand messaging. But too often, I find that it is the only sole digital platform. It's not funny to say this at a Google event, and I swear I wasn't put up for this. But so for me, I found that their organic reach is declining. But really, oftentimes we get these calls and everybody's just like, it has to appear on Facebook. And I said, why? And the whole reason is, well, because that's what everybody else is doing. And the reach is declining. It's not really about just being on Facebook anymore. You don't own the content that's on Facebook. You don't own the conversation that's happening there. We're always dealing with their constant API changes. If you've built stuff on Facebook, I think that this is like, everybody's been screwed. 2 days before the project launches, there's some API change, the project doesn't work anymore. It's just way easier to do things on a microsite. And lastly, it just looks better. You're not handcuffed by some small little column. You can use the full extent of the browser. It just looks really better, and you're not competing with the user's attention as well. And I found this great quote from EA Sports' global marketing VP. And it's not about what platform I'm on anymore, it's can I cultivate share-worthy content? And that's what it's all about. So, it's about the content that you're creating and getting it out there. And that's, if it's good content, it's going to get out there. Second, viral isn't a strategy. So don't rely on your campaign going viral. So you still need a good media buy. So this is pulled from a project that we recently did that was really successful. And even you can see, take a guess where the media buy was. And even afterwards, it was still successful just on its organic growth, but you can see it's eclipsed by its media buy. Another thing that really helps is having a really varied PR strategy. So a lot of the times what we'll do is we're not just going to actually just send out a generic PR through the wire, but we target ad press, creative press, development magazines. We'll sit there and take a project that we've done that really, for example, like the one we did with Cameron here for Heart of the Architect, and promote it through like whatever technology that we used in it, and like fire it through like development magazines. And it's just really about like kind of really like broadening your reach, I guess, and trying to attract a lot of attention from a lot of different places. And then users will share it. So this is a thing that I often come by, and it's kind of like, how are people going to share things? And really just adding social icons is not going to get any people who are going to share it or want to share it. You have to have a social strategy that respects users. So what do I mean by that? I mean, does it pass your sniff test? Right? So I was asking myself, well, would you share this yourself? Right? A lot of times people are like, well, then people will share it. And it's just like, well, would you share it? Like, think about, like, what would cause you to share this site? And I find that kind of helps you get to those ideas that will actually be something that is share-worthy. So don't limit yourself to a campaign. A lot of the points I'm making here, by the way, I forgot to mention this, are related to ad campaigns. So when I mean campaigns, big experiential kind of sites, not necessarily media campaigns or brand sites. But what I like about this is, campaigns necessarily aren't destinations, if you think about them that way, right? They're something that we have to drive users toward seeing and visiting. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But, for me, I really love this idea of the evergreen property, and I think it's time to start thinking a little bit more about the evergreen properties that have longer extensions, 2-3 year engagements. Content and utility are king. I mean, it's time to grow a platform organically. I think we're all familiar with McDonald's Our Food, Your Questions. Huge success. A friend of mine worked on the campaign. This was initially just going to be a limited campaign run to solve perception of McDonald's as a brand, to try and increase, or dispel some of these rumors. And it's been so successful that they've basically made this, and it's just going to live in perpetuity. And if you go to mcdonalds.ca, this is their homepage. So it's not basically saying like, hey, buy a Big Mac. It's basically Our Food, Your Questions. So it's been so integrated into their brand and into their site that they know that if somebody's coming to mcdonalds.ca, they're not looking for what's the current promo. It's about answering people's questions. So don't say no to haute couture. I think, probably got like some raised eyebrows here now and being like, what the hell is haute couture? So in fashion world, it's pieces designed and constructed for the runway, much like an art exhibition, right? So in digital, sometimes we'll do these haute couture websites, right? Effectively, these are your pure brand play. It's not meant to sell a specific thing or promote a specific thing. It's just meant to elevate the brand's perception or change something or just kind of make you look cool. You look at somebody like, this is your ready-to-wear. So here's, typical stuff. I don't know if anybody here would wear this, but this is your ready-to-wear. It's in the stores, and this is the same designer, but you can see vastly different. It's something that nobody would wear, but it's about an expression of creativity. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at here is you want to show something. You want to show users something they haven't seen before, and I think that is a lot of what the web is about. That and cat videos, but really when people are looking at stuff and what people want to share, it's basically things that are, like, have you seen this before? It's something, it's something unique and original. We recently built wrong button. We recently built a website called Future Self for publicists in Paris, and this is probably the craziest project I've ever worked on. It has so much technological, so much tech in it, it's unbelievable. It's even difficult to explain. But basically what it is you take a picture of yourself and you have a conversation with yourself on a webcam 20 years from now. A ton of press, 2 million plus visits, plus all the articles and editorials that that got written up about it in New York Times and Gizmodo and Mashable and all this kind of stuff. And the point here really is that there was no overt. It was for Orange, by the way, sorry. But there was no overt sell. It didn't try to get you to buy anything at the end of it. It didn't try to tell you about what great deals Orange has on current cell phones and stuff like that. It was purely meant just to be a celebration of Orange's 20th anniversary. All right, so this is my last point, and it's kind of a two-parter. So it's focus on the 90%. So basically, features equal money. And I'm trying to basically get this sentiment across of spending your budget accordingly. So a lot of the times, and a lot of what is going to follow and what you'll hear today, are some pretty forward and progressive thinking ideas about how to do things and how to do things in the future and what we should be doing in the future. And again, just moving back to that notion of handcuffing, there are certain things that handcuff us, and that's usually time, money, and budget. So the first is stop saying this campaign needs to be mobile first. So I know this is one of those things where you're going to call me crazy, but I don't want people to confuse this with thinking that your brand site, this is different than your brand site and your campaign site. So basically, the difference for me is natural traffic versus media-driven traffic. And so if we take a look at this lovely little graph here, I asked for my friend who works at a major fashion brand to give me stats on their brand platform. So it's a brand platform where they actually do a lot of their sales. And as you can see, it is very mobile oriented, right? So it's actually mobile and tablet are surpassing desktop by far. But when you take a look at ad campaigns, it's starkly different. So here are the last 3 projects that we've done. Varying degrees of success from 780,000 visits in total, 341,000. And from an ad campaign standpoint, very different. 94% desktop, 90% desktop, 92% desktop. So, and time spent on that on desktop was 2 to 3 times longer than that of mobile. So what I'm not saying is that to stop doing things on mobile and not to think mobile first, but mobile first isn't necessarily for promotion. Mobile first for me is about service and utility. It's about giving the user, creating, they have this smartphone in their pocket, and it's really about giving them something that they can actually use, as opposed to just being like, hey, look at this, because there's many more things to distract them on their mobile. Last one, this one I'm going to leave you off with again, going along with this theme, is stop saying it needs to work in IE8. Again, Google guys should be clapping. So we're wasting too much time, money, and sanity making modern websites for old browsers. I know this sounds really crazy, but the way websites are coded now is so starkly different. We're basically building 2 different sites. And the reason why this is important because it's your money. So if you have a website and you have a $100,000 budget, $30,000, you can choose to spend it on making your website more interesting for that 90% of people that are doing things, or you can choose to spend $30,000 for, oh right, sorry, I forgot to make this point, shit. Anyways, the only 2 people that are using IE are your grandmother and brands. So it's just the client. Everybody else isn't on it. So anyways. So again, this is taken from recent stats. 4.3% of users. So this is, to me, is a waste of money. And it's handcuffing creativity. It's handcuffing us from moving forward. Because you'll sit there, you'll come to me with this crazy idea and be like, can we do this, as Cameron did? And he's like, can we do this? And we'll be like, yes, but we could do it here and here, but not here. And then we always get the comment that, but our client is on IE8. And we're like, well, your client is 0.4% of the market. So, is it really worth it? So stop sweating the small stuff. Focus on what works best. And that's my talk.